Hi there, Mayflom here to share a tutorial for the Simon Says Stamp and Show blog. And this week our challenge is all about your favorite ink. And I know it would be really easy to say, oh, I can't possibly pick mine because I have so many. And it's true for me too. So instead of trying to pick my one favorite ink pad, what I'm sharing with you is my favorite ink color of the moment, and that is navy blue. I'm finding navy blue to be really useful in a lot of ways that I was using a dark rich brown or a black ink. So in other words, maybe I would add contrast, or maybe I would take it and edge a project with it, or edge one of the paper layers with it. It works well with so many colors that it's really a great color of ink. And you can see here I've got the Hero Arts Shadow Ink in navy. I really love the Hero Arts Shadow Inks, and I get a lot of questions about what is the shadow ink, what makes it special, what makes it different. To me, it's just a regular, it's what I call a plain or regular ink pad, meaning that it works really well in regular run-of-the-mill stamping projects. I also find that it works really well with one of the Ranger blending tools, with a foam blending tool, and I'll show you that in a moment. And it says right on here, it is acid-free, archival, and fade-resistant, which is really important for scrapbookers that you want to use really good quality inks. And it is also, once it's dry, it's not going to smudge or smear or interact with other liquid mediums. So it makes it a really good choice if you're wanting to layer on colors or do other things with it. So I'm just going to show you real quick what I did here on my card. This is a basic gray little hanger embellishment, and all I did was stick it onto a piece of paper that is stitched. And as you can see, this is not a full card. I need to mount this onto a blank card. I like to do my cards this way so that when I'm getting all inky and messy and stitchy, my finished card on the inside, when you flip it open, you won't see the stitches and the mess. You'll just see a solid piece of paper, because I will, here we go, here's a card. I will mount this onto here so that when you open it up, you'll just see beautiful, smooth paper. Anyhow, let me show you doing this really easy, and one of my favorite techniques. I've got this stencil here, which is available in the Simon shop, and I just take my foam blending tool, and if you've ever done this with Distress ink, same exact thing. I'm just going to blend, and this is such a smooth, beautiful ink pad. What I love about it is it'll really work well with this. You can get a darker at the edges. You can build up a darker color. If you keep going back over the same area, it's going to build up more. If you only go over once or only go over it lightly, it's going to be a lighter color. And if you get a spot where, whoops, you have a really harsh line, it's really forgiving as long as you come right back through with the tool and a bit more ink. It's very forgiving. All you need to remember to do something like this is to make sure and hold both the stencil and the paper really firm. And you don't need a ton of pressure. This is something I love ever since I discovered that my foam tool worked really well with stencils and ink. I'm absolutely in love with this because there's none of the guesswork of mist, and it's really easy to hold the paper down. And when you're done, you can see, and I'll bring this up here so you can see even closer. You can see where I went darker and lighter, so there's some variation to it. I just love this look. I think it's so lovely, and I love my Hero Arts Shadow Ink in navy for this and for general stamping as well. Another really great navy ink pad is the Distress ink pad in Chipped Sapphire. Now, what would make these two different? You could ink up a stamp such as this one with either one, and it would look really nice. In fact, I'll go ahead and do that just to show you. Okay, and I will do the shadow ink first. And you just get a nice crisp image with the shadow ink. Okay, I love it. Oh, it's just such a pretty navy. It's just so nice to work with. Okay, and then stamp cleaned off, and let's do it with the Distress ink. Okay, and Distress ink is a nice stamping ink too. I like to use it quite a bit, especially since I have most of the colors. And I'll stamp right below here. And you can see very, very similar. Now, what you will notice is if I were to come through here, and the ink has dried, it sat there for a minute. If I miss this with water, what you are going to see, and I will, this one didn't get quite, if I miss this with water, and then I'm just using a heat tool just to dry the water so you can really see the difference here, you can see how the Distress ink on the bottom, how it's really blending and bleeding. And that is a property of Distress, that it is reactive with, I say with moisture, because with water, if I was to mist or spritz or anything on here, other ink colors rubbed over, it's reactive with water. So you can see it's blending and bleeding a bit, whereas the top one, the shadow ink, is not. So that's maybe just something to remember, you know, if you're trying to know why you would want one versus the other. It really just depends on the kind of stamping you're going to do. Now, another way that I like to use my Chipped Sapphire Distress ink, if I wanted something navy blue and embossed, I could get out my Chipped Sapphire Distress ink and ink up my stamp. And it does stay wet for a little bit, so you can... It does take a minute to dry, so you can, if you're, you know, quick about it, don't just leave it there for a couple minutes or anything, use it with embossing powder. So I've just sprinkled clear embossing powder on here, and I'm just gently tapping away the excess, and I will get rid of the excess powder here so that I don't create a big old mess when I turn on the heat tool, and I can heat set this. And this is going to do two things. Number one, now I have a shiny raised navy bird, which will be great for my project, however this tag's going to turn out. And number two, that's locked that Distress color in. So now if I squirt this with water, that Distress ink is not going to bleed because it is all locked in there with the embossing powder. And I'll just hit this with the heat tool just to let that tag dry out a bit. So what can you mix with navy? Well, navy is a really nice color because it goes with almost any color on the color wheel. If I pulled out a bold orange, navy and orange can be really great together. If I pulled out hot pink, I love navy and hot pink. Minty green, a rich purple, with other shades of blue, with brighter shades of green, with red, it really goes with almost any other color. So I love the versatility of it, and I've just been using it absolutely a ton. And for this little bird here, I'm just playing around. You know, one of my things with my process and creating stuff, a lot of times I'll just be in here in my little workspace, and I just mess around with stuff and see what happens, see how I like it. And I'm going to try little bundled sage here over my bird. I could just sit here all day long and play with stuff. I hope you have enjoyed my video this week. Hope you'll join us in this week's challenge. And I wish you some very happy crafting.